The first time you ever get cannabinoids in your body is from mother's milk. And the stage in your life when you're growing 300% in 1 year, right? We're trying to tap into that system that we still have, and we still make those cannabinoids by ourselves today.
Tell all of the listeners and viewers what you want the world to know about PICO IV.
PICO IV is going to change medicine. We're going to change medicine about...
We're diving into the future of wellness and medical innovation with the brilliant minds behind PICO IV, the world's first sterile CBD IV therapy. Joining us are Dan Reed, Director of Business Development, Joe Young, Visionary CEO leading the charge, and Miles Terry, Chief Science Officer and the mastermind driving breakthrough technology.
As you age, you start producing less and less endocannabinoids, and you see that demographic of that more elderly person that's really kind of gravitating towards this product. There's a reason for that.
Pharma has over 1,000 patents of synthetic cannabinoids to target the endocannabinoid system. They have them in phase 2, phase 3 studies, so it's coming.
What is it that you guys are seeing is working best for what type of illnesses or type of issues that patients might be having?
This gets a little bit tricky.
We're programmed to die, and we see that as we age, right? Testosterone levels, hormone levels, everything starts becoming unbalanced as we get older.
What the hell is CBD?
CBD is...
Welcome to another episode of A Healthy Point of View podcast. I'm your host, Sam Tejada, and as usual, we're bringing experts in the field of health, wellness, beauty, and mindset. Today, we have 3 guests. It's our first time actually bringing in 3 people here on A Healthy Point of View. These people are very close to my heart. Who are they? Well, you're going to learn a lot of new stuff today about what's happening with the different products that are out in the health and wellness space and the technology that's changing the course of health and wellness. Today, I have the pleasure of being with the corporate leaders of PICO CBD IV. As you guys may already know, I sit on the advisory board for PICO CBD. So today we're going to get into the details and truly understand the science first behind CBD, and then really understand the science behind what the heck is PICO. So today we have Miles, Dan, and Joe. Hey, all right. There we go. Welcome to A Healthy Point of View, gentlemen. How are you guys?
Great.
Doing great,
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome,
Thanks for
man.
having us.
Thank you.
Just flew in, our arms are tired.
Don't fly too much. Man. So, man, oh man. So the way I want to start off today first is getting to know you guys, right? Because you guys didn't all of a sudden become PICO out of nowhere. You guys had a whole life before that. So, Miles, I want to start off with you, just giving us a little idea of what were you doing before you started PICO IV, and how the heck did you even get into this line of work?
Well, 2018 Farm Bill, President Trump, put into effect the federal law that basically declassifying cannabis, right? As long as it was a certain threshold of 0.3% or less THC content, which opened up the CBD market as a whole, right? So I kind of got in super early. People were gearing up. People knew that this law was going to pass, right? So in 2017, I was actually selling solar with Dan, and we were seeing a bunch of grow operations, and they consume a lot of energy, so they needed solar panels. So we were looking through that, and I was touring labs and stuff, and I was like, I could do this, right? Like, I was seeing what people were doing, even though I wasn't there to look at that. So then I, bought my first tinctures, the oil tinctures that go underneath the tongue, and kind of sold those off, but started thinking about how could I build a business out of this? How could I make this better? How could I lower my cogs, right? And then I started reverse engineering that this is before AI got into like the forums and reading science papers and stuff, and kind of got to a point where I wanted to see, can we make this oil water soluble, right? So then I dug a little deeper and figured out that there's actually a lot of pharmaceuticals that are oil soluble, right? So how do you make those water soluble? So then I got my first it's called a sonicator, ultrasonicator. It's a rod that emits ultrasonic energy to cause cavitation. And I was able to make my first water soluble, substance. And then from there, it's a long story, but we started a business together, Apex Labs, with Joe and I, and it was a long, probably 7-year road before Pico came around. That's like a next level. So that's kind of the in a nutshell the story.
So Joe, were you selling solar?
No, I was in real estate. Miles just kept talking about CBD the whole time, and it's 20 years in real estate. I was ready for a new venture, and so he brought me in to kind of help manufacture with him.
Okay.
And I realized I couldn't stand doing that. It was the last thing I wanted to do, but I knew websites and the front end development. So really started building the front end product development. What does the market need? Would come to Miles and be like, hey, this is, I think, what we need for the market. And so, as Miles was saying, the water soluble, really that was our focus. So whether it be pain creams or anything along those lines to make it more water soluble rather than just taking isolate and putting it in a pain cream and melting it on, we wanted to make it to where it could actually absorb into the skin. And so focusing on drinks and things along those lines was kind of our main priority of kind of getting it there. And then it started developing into something a little bit further.
Right.
Pico-IV. Yeah.
So okay, so you guys knew each other before.
His wife is my best friend from years ago.
Oh, wow.
The
Okay.
joke was she brought him out one time on my boat, and I'm like, "Who's this guy?" She's like, "He's gonna be fine." I'm like, "You know the rules." So no, and yeah, by the end of the day, we were best friends, and just kind of evolved through that. And I'm the godfather of their son and whatnot. So
Awesome.
it's really much a family environment. I've known Reed for years, and so we just we brought it all in, and I
Amazing.
think we all have the same vision of what we want to do with the company.
So you don't like to call him by his first name. You call him.
I
by
call
his
it
last
Dan Reed, yeah. So it flips, yeah.
Yeah.
We all have
You-
nicknames
you,
and different.
you,
Yeah.
you typically see that with like people who played sports and stuff. Like anybody that played on my football team or baseball team was like Tejada.
Right.
Nobody calls it.
So and Dan, okay, so what happened then? Did Miles like convince you like, hey, you need to come over here to the CBD side as you guys were selling solar?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. It's, my background, I've been in the home improvement solar industry for over 15 years. I loved it. Developed a lot of sales teams, did a lot of training, just teaching people how to get better and how to, you're selling, it's not a product. You're selling savings. You're selling how can we help these people. But at any rate, they were growing the manufacturing side, but they weren't spreading with the sales. And I have a big sales background, so I came in to do that right as they were developing Pico-IV. And the more that I learned about this, the more that there's such an untapped market. And a lot of that has to do with the endocannabinoid system. Nobody's talking about it. So I fell in love instantly. And the last 2.5 years have been just incredible for all of us. What we're learning, just the lives that we're touching has been absolutely incredible. So we're all definitely fueled full of passion with what we're doing.
And Dan, I'll tell you, man, for a guy who just comes from sales, selling home improvement stuff, like I know and I feel your passion when you speak because you would think that you went to medical school or something. I hear you talk to these doctors.
It's funny because that's all he does is he talks to physicians and doctors and medical every day, all day, in endocannabinoid system, and he does his research. So he really has become this authority in endocannabinoid system just by osmosis and everything else that he's been doing with these doctors. And we go to him for our answers, and that's why it was so important for him
listen,
to be.
I did an hour webinar with him. How does Dan know? And people question me as well too because I know a lot of the clinical stuff, and that's like this guy didn't even go to college, right?
Right.
I was a paramedic and firefighter and whatnot. So I went to vocational school for that. But it's when you have that passion, you figure the shit out. You'll learn it somehow. So awesome. So all right, so let's get into CBD. So I'll let any of you guys take this question. What the hell is CBD?
CBD is cannabidiol, right? Which is a main cannabinoid in the cannabis sativa L plant, which AKA hemp, right? Basically, it's essential. It's essential in the body for helping stimulate the endocannabinoid system. Most people don't understand. This is a cascade event system that triggers the release of anandamide and 2-AG, which is endogenous cannabinoids. We make our own cannabinoids in our body, And I think, Dan always talks about this, and Joe as well, is the first time you ever get cannabinoids in your body is from mother's milk, right? And the stage in your life when you're growing 300% in 1 year, right? That takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of growth.
Right.
So we're trying to, tap into that system that we still have, and we still make those cannabinoids by ourselves today. So
Yeah. And what's incredible about CBD, it's one molecule, it's one compound in the cannabis plant. They want you to think of the cannabis plant as THC. THC is also just one compound. There's over 200 different cannabinoid compounds in the cannabis and hemp plant. There's over 200 different terpene compounds. So they've done a good job with the propaganda, wanting you to see that plant as THC.
So that's a good thing that you're bringing this up, Dan, because when people hear cannabinoid, right? They always the stigma is always, oh, it's marijuana and you're smoking out of a joint.
yeah,
Right. So there's, the best way I could put it, it's like, I hate fish. I don't eat fish. Right. But I take fish oil because it's a byproduct that has the health properties that I need.
Yeah.
Right. So same thing with this actual hemp plant. There's different parts of it that have these type of benefits. So let's get a little bit more into that so people understand that what we're talking about here that's being delivered intravenously, it is not the same thing that you're just picking up and smoking, while you're at a concert.
yeah,
Far from it. I mean, there's zero THC in our products, and for a reason. I mean, I think the last thing we'd want to do on this end would be injecting somebody with THC, because those effects could last for a very long time.
Right.
And so really, everything that we do is THC free. But we do have 6 cannabinoids that we put in there, that we have looked at research and papers that have been done on these various cannabinoids and the properties that are in them. And we feel as a whole, that's really the product that we're looking for. And so, whether it's CBGA and CBDA, and we can go through the whole list, but I think that's probably another show that we could really dive deep on.
Yeah, which we'll touch a little bit on that as well.
Yeah.
But so when we're looking at this plant, the marijuana plant, right, and we're extracting these the cannabinoid from it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other CBD product that's out there. This is not the same. This is not the same CBD product I get at the gas station. There's a huge difference. So what is the difference between the regular CBD that people are seeing on every single corner versus what's inside of these sterile injectable vials?
Yeah. So, okay. So cannabinoids really quickly is going to be CBD, CBG, CBC, CBN, CBDA, and CBGA. Okay. We chose those 6 because they complement each other, and they're also, they're accessible in a CGMP facility, right? That's really Pico IV. We knew we were going to have to get into the pharmaceutical industry, and we're going to have a spotlight on us. So we wanted to go above and beyond all standards, right? And that's really where I think this whole thing differentiates from what, quote unquote, you get from a gas station, right? Those aren't regulated. The states are getting to that point where they're regulating it a little more, but it's nowhere near FDA guidelines and, sterile manufacturing facilities or anything like that.
Right.
So I guess to kick it off, we already mentioned the cannabinoids. So the actual process of isolating these cannabinoids first, in order to make them non-psychoactive, because the plant always, even in hemp, will have a level of THC, right, around even above 0.3%, because at the plant level, right, once you extract it and remove all of the chlorophyll and plant matter, you're going to get an amplified version of the oil, right, a crude version. So then you have to go through winterization. That is, defatting, desugaring the oil. Then you go through molecular distillation, where under a vacuum you boil it to approximately 200 degrees Celsius in order to purify the oil and get almost every single bit of plant matter out of it. You do that process 3 times, rule of 90%. You get a 90% oil, then you get 99%, then you get 99.9%. After the third pass, you're going to mix it with a nonpolar solvent. And then you are going to chill it down to cryo levels, -90 Celsius, and then it's going to isolate. The crystals are going to drop out, and then you have isolated a cannabinoid. So you'll get CBD out first, then you'll isolate it again and get CBG, and then you have all these isolates that have down to parts per billion, no THC. Then you need to take that, heat that up to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, put it into an oil, and then you have to then mix it with our patented process and then ultrasonication to cavitate it into a water-soluble substance.
Wow.
So that's where you get into this. So basically, this is white because the oil droplets have been...
What is that?
So this is water-soluble cannabinoids.
Okay.
So this cannot be sterilized because it can't go through a particulate filter, which is required by the FDA.
Yeah, it looks like milk. Hold that up so the camera can see that.
Yeah. So looks like milk. You can't see through it. And the reason is because the particles are very small. They're nano-sized particles. So
Okay, so nano, because that's something that we hear frequently, especially
Yes.
in the compounding world, the wellness space.
nano lasers, right?
Yeah, nano lasers, the nano technology for the glutathione, the nano this.
Exactly.
And then you hear about liposomal. So what is nano?
So nano is a measurement of a particle. It's an average measurement, right? Because not all the particles are identical. So it's below a micro level.
Okay.
So it goes micro, and then 1,000 times smaller is nano, 1,000 times smaller is pico, right? So that's where our name comes from.
Well, 1 nanometer is 100,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair.
Yeah, so we're talking super small.
That's the nanometer.
Yes,
That's
it's
a
a
nanometer.
nanometer.
What's the picometer?
What's a picometer, Dan?
Well, a picometer is 1,000 times smaller than a nanometer.
Yeah, so
So
you're in the
been able to
millions.
get sub-nano with the particle size.
Yeah.
In the pico realm.
Yeah, and we're talking about the smallest point of the. So if you think of our particle more like a rod shape, the pico realm is going to be more of the head of it, because people go, well, you can't really get it into a pico realm. It's actually, but if you look at it from a rod shape and not a sphere, that's where we come into the pico.
We measure,
and
the
that's what's
smallest part.
and that's what's most important, is being able to fit into two things where a typical nano particle couldn't get into, and that's a big, huge difference, obviously, between our product and what you're going to find at a gas station.
So can you create other things into a pico-molecule?
Absolutely,
Like,
yeah.
for example, vitamin
Yeah.
D3, like the injections of vitamin D can only, for the history that I've been in the IV space, can only be given intramuscular.
Yeah.
So can you convert vitamin D3, the vitamin D into a
So
pico-molecule?
the process is different from compound to compound, but yes, and we've done it with multiple compounds
We
that
have
are oil
10
soluble.
additional compounds that are not just CBD from Pico IV that are coming out.
Yeah,
That we need to do research on and look at toxicity and
But
kind
it-
of go through everything through those.
yeah. I mean, really, what
Right.
you want to look at, right, is the compounds are going to be slightly different, but the individual molecule, how small is it? What is the average length? What's the size, right? And then you have an embedment factor on creating it into a stable water-soluble system. But it's possible. And I think that's the next phase of Pico IV.
When you first decided to get into this, to figure out how to create the pico-molecule, when you're going through the forums and reading, like, where are you doing this? You're like figuring this out in your kitchen?
I mean,
Or you got, like,
back
a
in the
lab?
day, AI wasn't around, so I had to just do the work on forums and reading papers. But
But like the hands-on part, because
when Apex
Yeah.
Labs first started,
Yeah.
a lot of it was in my garage. I mean, he caught himself on fire twice in my garage.
I've caught
Yeah.
myself.
Oh, I heard that
yeah,
story
yeah,
before.
yeah. So a lot of it was, I mean, literally, they say the best companies, they started in garages. We did. I mean, it was a lot of it back then. And
But-
so, we
but
evolved from there. But,
Pico
yeah,
itself.
yeah.
So the nano-emulsion phase, yes, for drinks and beverages, but Pico itself was never in that. By then, we had our own facilities. We had ISO 5 rooms and everything.
right.
But yeah, back in the startup day,
Just trying to
that
figure
was
it out.
yeah.
No, listen,
Yeah.
I get it.
That's how I learned so much about solvents and how flammable they are.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, you gotta crawl before you can walk, before you can run, and I really had to learn how to create a stable, how to create a system, and then how to create a stable system, and then how to better that system. It builds. Most people don't even know the beginning part that I just mentioned of how to even get to an isolated form, let alone further it into this.
And I mean, look at the difference there.
Yeah,
if
so-
you can just hold up the difference, because so what makes the difference on one where I can see through it versus the other one is the size of the molecule itself.
Yeah. So the size. So this is a pico-emulsion. It's crystal clear. You can see through it. This is a nano-emulsion.
Wow.
So that's where the same oil, same particles are in here, but they are so small. You think about it like outer space. They're so small that there's more distance between these particles in the system than there is the actual mass of the particle itself.
Wow.
So when you have the opposite, you have interrupted space. There's no way light can pass through this. This crystal clear, light just goes right through it, no problem.
Very interesting.
There's not even a tinge to it. So, and that's the difference. And when you talk about the molecules and the makeup of your body and everything like that, when you reach a pico realm, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter what it is, you reach a certain point where the actual cells in your body are 1,000 times bigger than this. This is a third of the size of DNA, right? A strand of DNA. So you get to that point, you have rapid uptake on the cellular level to where you are like, it's called passive diffusion. There's no metabolism time. There's no time for the cell to absorb it.
Wow.
It's in the cell, right? So.
Yeah, it just has the ability to get into areas of the body, other therapies, other modalities just haven't been able to reach. Certainly any other cannabinoid. Never been able to have access to every aspect of the body the way that it does.
What parts of the body are like, what cells can the pico molecule reach that the nano can?
That the nano can't?
Right.
So on a nano level, I mean, when you talk about, we could even talk about, let's just say bacteria, right? They have porin channels where they take in water and nutrients, right? Every living organism needs that. So like there's porin channels and they're like little docks. They're channels that you come in, the cell goes, is this food? Is this water? If it's not, get out, right? And that's where this can go through because water is 300 picometers in diameter. That's a water molecule.
How many is it?
300.
300?
Yeah.
And this is what?
This is 850 at its smallest. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the water is smaller or bigger?
Water would be smaller. So
Smaller,
850
okay.
versus 300.
Right.
But my point is you have this channel that's only 1 to 2 nanometers in diameter.
Okay.
So most things aren't going to get through that, right?
Wow.
Water will get in, but most other things that you're going to put in your body, other modalities, other, oil soluble, water soluble things, nanoparticles can't get through that.
Right.
A nanoparticle is going to be, at its lowest point, like 10, 100 times bigger than that.
Is there anything smaller than a pico-molecule?
Yes, it's femto. And everyone goes, well, maybe next thing's femto. And I thought that one day. But when I found out that you can't go lower than the molecule itself without destroying the molecule, there's a floor.
Okay.
Right? That's why I said when you asked about can other things be done? Well, yes, it can, but there's a limit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at CB1 and CB2 receptors that are basically, that's what we're looking to work with within the system. I mean, you have the immune cells that have CB1 and CB2 receptors. You have reproductive systems that have CB1 and CB2 receptors. There's more with CB1 and CB2 receptors in your brain than any other kind of receptor. So being able to fit into those crevices, get into those places with this type of product is pretty fascinating. And we've been doing work with the University of Illinois with Dr. G. Lau, who works in immunomodulation and infectious diseases on the product, kind of seeing what the benefits are there as well. So it's pretty fascinating. There's a lot of research that needs to be done on that. Going to the other compounds, we have curcumin and CoQ10. Some of what are the alpha lipoic acid? We've got squalene.
BCP.
Those we all have patents pending on those as well. And also need to do research on those and take a look at toxicity and is it safe and whatnot, before going to the public.
Yeah, and I tell you, listen, you guys are members of the American IV Association,
Absolutely.
which our scientific advisory board is very well versed on everything that you guys are doing, being part of the association, and people are excited. The doctors are excited to see everything there's to come with the outcomes that the patients are experiencing with the Pico CBD. Now, when we start talking about the wellness industry and you guys pioneering what you're doing, I mean that had to be a decision, understanding that CBD has this certain stigma, right? So how has that been as you guys have been implementing this into actual clinics with doctors? Has that been a rough process to get them to understand that? And Dan, this might be a question for you
Oh,
because
yeah.
He's the one that
you're talking to all the doctors.
What do they say? Pioneers take the most arrows, and
Yeah.
Dan's taking quite a few of them, through this process.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's, CBD's pretty widely known. You have THC, you have CBD, but there's still the stigma, that people are concerned about, and that's just because they did a great job with propaganda. They did an incredible job. But people are open to it, and then you have some that are just kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure about that. So we just have to continue to educate, right? And a lot of the education is around the endocannabinoid system. We just have to get people to understand that your body is always operated on cannabinoids. You have endogenous cannabinoids, you have cannabinoid receptors, you have a system in your body that connects to every single vital system. Doesn't just connect to them, it monitors them, it modulates them. And all we need to do is take care of one system, Sam, potentially take care of one system, make sure that this system is operating at a high level, which is the endocannabinoid system, and that could potentially affect every other system in the human body. So it's education, and it's going to take a while because of the propaganda.
So Dan, you're talking about the endocannabinoid system
Mm-hmm.
in the body.
Yep.
Where I've heard other people talk, doctors even, it's like, well, I didn't learn about the system in medical school.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this system, and why is it that there's a lot of physicians out there that don't even know that this system exists?
That's a really good question. So in my opinion, Sam, this is something that should be an absolute mandated with every company, every person that's in medicine to start learning about this. Commit to 15 minutes a day. So our body's always operated on cannabinoids. Like they mentioned, since the day we were born, our body creates endogenous cannabinoids called endocannabinoids. And those bind and activate cannabinoid receptors. We have hundreds of trillions of cannabinoid receptors. Our cannabinoid receptors are tied to every single vital organ, nearly every tissue and cell in the body. If we have a cannabinoid receptor attached to it, that means the endocannabinoid system can modulate it or regulate it. So this system, it's like our cardiovascular system. It pumps blood, right? Respiratory system moves air. So I could talk about our endocrine system, respiratory, cardiovascular, endocrine, immune system, muscular, lymphatic, pain sensory. There's like 13 of them. The endocannabinoid system, it connects to all of these systems, but it doesn't just connect to them. It's involved in every physiological function. So ideally what the ECS does, the endocannabinoid system, is it monitors all vital systems. And when there is an imbalance, this could be an immune response, a toxin, this could be poor metabolic diet, anything that creates an imbalance in the body, the endocannabinoid system will step in to restore harmony. And it does that by calling for the genesis of endogenous cannabinoids. Now, our endogenous cannabinoids, they're like the body's internal pharmacy. They're pharmacy drugs to our body, so to speak. They contain healing messages, and they will traverse to the area of the body that's compromised, and it binds to a cannabinoid receptor. Once this occurs, it's delivering a message. Now, this activates the receptor, and our receptor broadcasts healing instructions to the body. Now, once this takes place, this enhances cellular communication. There's a cascade of signaling events that take place where the body goes through a natural healing progression. Ultimately, homeostasis is restored. That endocannabinoid releases from the receptor, and then it's destroyed immediately. So our body creates these on demand precisely when and where they are needed. And this is a process that this could happen trillions of times a day in our body. So ultimately, we hear about the importance of internal balance and homeostasis, but we never hear them discuss the one system that's its job, to maintain balance in the entire body. Now, this isn't taught in medical school, and there's a lot of reasons for this, stigma. Plant's been at the blunt end of controversy. the propaganda against it. But this system was discovered in the early 1990s, and it was discovered because of the cannabis and hemp plant. So there's some reasons why it's not being taught about in school. Plus, I mean, school is really, they teach a lot of pharmaceutical outcomes versus talking about endogenous systems that can be stimulated by a plant. Doesn't exactly go with the model.
Right.
Well, and also how long does it take to go through medical school, right? And when you get there, are your books brand spanking new? Usually not.
Right.
Right. So if this is only, in the late '90s discovered, right?
Yeah.
You're not.
Well, you know what they
got a
say? They
gap.
say that science is 25 years ahead of actual medical practice.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that they're doing in medical practice, there's science that's already like from 25 years ago that,
Exactly.
that they're still not even utilizing.
So that's why most doctors don't know about it. I would
I'll tell
say.
you what, they would have to rewrite entire medical school curriculum to include the endocannabinoid system because it's that involved in every physiological function.
And these aren't even our opinions. These are actual papers that we've, NIH papers, actual medical disclosures that have happened from well-known researchers.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, there is already a lot of research when it comes to CBD, right? Because even a lot of states, they offer CBD and medical marijuana and all of that stuff, right? So there has to be some kind of science behind it already.
Yeah.
And there's FDA-approved products that are out on the market that are related to CBD. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah.
Epidiolex
Epidiolex,
is FDA approved.
And that's for what? For like seizures?
Yeah,
Yes.
For children.
Yeah. It's
So like when you start really thinking about that, it's like, okay, so people, on the science side are accepting this. So when it comes to the Pico CBD IV product, what is it that you guys are seeing is working best for what type of illnesses or type of issues that patients might be having?
So this gets a little bit tricky, and just because FDA, we're under a magnifying glass. As much as we would love to be able to kind of go through and what we hear back from the clinics, we're kind of a little bit handcuffed. I think we've got two whammies on us, right? We're a new emerging IV company, and we have, and we're also in CBD, but we do have. On our website, you can go to, we have 1,100 clinics that we work with maps you can go to, contact any clinic that we have in there, and they can really kind of go
the doctor
into,
in the clinic,
the
the
doctors,
physician.
the medical,
Right.
they can speak to their experience of it. They can kind of go over even testimonials that maybe a patient had. We are not able to have those testimonials on our website, but they can definitely go through and kind of understand what the benefits
No,
are.
but CBD in general.
But if you think about CBD in general, and if you look at not specifically what our particle size can do, but just look at CBD in general and endocannabinoid systems, I think that you could look at inflammation, you can look at, just overall health, wellness, all the things that Reed was speaking to,
autoimmune.
and autoimmune disease. And I think that if you look at, as you age, you start producing less and less endocannabinoids, and you see that demographic of that more elderly person that's really kind of gravitating towards this product. There's a reason for that.
Joe, is there a test that can be done on someone to see, the level of
Genetic testing, absolutely.
Is that what it is? Is genetic testing?
Reed is another. He's been diving deep on that as well, and there absolutely is.
We definitely looking to team up with a couple different genetics testing companies. There's 13 SNPs that I want to take a look at. Today, there's only 2 standardized SNPs. You could look at the CB1 receptor. You could look at the FA enzyme. But ultimately, what we want to do is be able to look at all 13 so we could find out where somebody is deficient, and then we could put together custom packages to balance out this system so it can operate at a high level. It's just not there yet, as far as what's available.
Yeah, well, let me clarify one thing. It's not there yet for where we want it to be, right? We're always looking for the next thing. How do we get it there? Those 2 SNPs are available, and I think it is something that people can partake in and look at. We have already started kind of a genetics test prototype that we are piloting right now. But again, it's only at those 2 SNPs. But it's better than nothing, right? You look at cannabinoid metabolism, what you're predisposition to, cannabinoid sensitivity, right? Cannabinoid psychosis, stuff like that. So you can get a little bit of a gauge, but as Dan said, it's not where we want it to be because we want to overall wellness genetics test to be like, here's what you're predispositioned to, and here's where you're at. Good job, right? And that's where we want to be one day because that's where the next phase of this, a systemic hydrophilic cannabinoid product is, right? And I think that's something we need to talk about too, is that never before has it been systemic, quantifiable milligrams, right? You could do inhalation and smoking, but you can't quantify the milligrams that goes directly in the bloodstream. However, in a lipophilic form, which it is, you're only vaporizing the oil, right? Goes directly in your bloodstream. It's still an oil, so your body has to convert it into different metabolites in order, and those are different cannabinoids altogether, right?
Right.
This is the first time you've ever been able to have a non hydroxy 11 or carboxy 7 cannabinoid version in your bloodstream that's systemic and quantifiable. So that's a huge difference, and that's why we're seeing way better results, way different results, because the body's never seen this exposure. So
Right. Man, there's a lot to learn here about the CBD stuff. Now, you guys are doing a lot of research, right? You guys are
Yeah.
actively, even Joe, you said something about working with universities.
Yeah, University of Illinois, Dr. G. Lau there, he's been fantastic with working on animal studies, looking at toxicity levels, and there's never been any kind of fatal dose of CBD or anything, destructive in that sense as well. So knowing as we were going to go into the market, the understanding the cannabinoid profile, not THC, but just kind of looking at CBD and the overall safety. But yeah, now it's just it's moving into case studies, working with the FDA, working on an initial new drug with the FDA specifically. We have various countries that we're in right now as well. So we're looking at Australia, Thailand, we've got Ecuador,
Mexico,
And
Brazil.
what are
Brazil.
you guys doing in
Yeah.
these other countries?
So pretty much the same thing, really. It's kind of going in and, working with human safety studies, kind of starting in human safety studies and then kind of moving on to the next phases in with them and with each individual country. And then taking the work that we're doing with University of Illinois and kind of bringing it all full circle. So,
Yeah, the next phase is getting into this FDA approval structure.
Okay.
We're working with our FDA. We're trying to work with Thai FDA. We're working with Australia already, preliminarily approved us once we get through all of the various studies that they require. It's different from country to country, but we know once we get pierce the veil on one country, whether it's ours or a different one, they all kind of look at each other, and then it's going to be opening it up everywhere.
Right.
Once we have this data, we can share with that country, vice versa.
So based off of some of it, and I don't know how much you guys are willing to talk about some of the things that you guys are experiencing and seeing in research. But what is it that you guys are expecting to see in some of the research that you guys are doing with the animal studies?
I think what we can say is it's going to blow people's minds, because when you talk about the endocannabinoid system and what Dan's discussed about it connecting to everything in the body, and even when we talk about health and wellness and balance, we're programmed to die, and we see that as we age, right? Testosterone levels, hormone levels, everything starts becoming unbalanced as we get older, and this restores. Even our endocannabinoid production dives as we get older, right? After that 35-year-old mark or whatnot, it just keeps going down.
Right.
What we're trying to do is, I guess the best example I can give you is, a lot of people talk about methylation and all that, right? They have this whole map, right? And this talks about supplementation, where you're deficient, so you supplement, right? What we're talking about is, why are you deficient? We think we can make your factory better to output better, so you don't have to supplement. And if we could do that, that's a cascade of events of prevention, right? You're preventing the disease. And we kind of feel like it's going to show us that a lot of our problems are because of our bodies not being able to produce what it needs to. Even though you're eating the right things, your body can't convert it into the right thing in order to, be healthy. And that gets worse and worse as we get older. So that's what I think we're going to see. So
yeah, I mean, I think that right in the same line, and just the work that we have done and looking at, like we said, having CB1 and CB2 receptors on immune cells and being able to get in those and stimulating immune systems and immunomodulation and what can that do is also going to be very important. So that's really kind of where we're headed with the research on everything that we're doing. But I mean, we're going to be researching this for many decades, I think, to come. And looking at different combinations of cannabinoids and whatnot. It's going to be important. And
Well,
it'll be the next step in, I think, in the
yeah,
medical
well,
world.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you one thing. Because I know you guys are kind of limited to how much you can say. Especially dealing with the FDA and
Yeah.
filing certain things. But the one person who can talk about it is me. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Fire away.
Which I have
Yeah.
clinics and our doctors actively utilize the Pico CBD product. Call it research or the right to try. That's what doctors do. They heavily work on a lot of off-label type of treatments to figure out the solution for patients that are suffering. Right. I've had the opportunity to do the actual Pico IV on myself.
Yeah.
And I could tell you that when I do it, I don't get high, right? It's
Yeah.
not a psychoactive type of drug. But what I do feel is if I have any like pain anywhere, like even on my back, that pain just disappears.
Mm.
I feel fantastic. The first time I tried it, which was at one of the conferences with a couple of my doctors that were there as well too, I got very like energetic. Like I had like it was just like a good sense of liveliness. I felt good.
Yeah.
Like almost like I replenished something that was missing. So, Dan, one of the things that our doctors are seeing with patients with like autoimmune issues or some type of inflammatory disease, they're starting to see a lot of that inflammation come down, right? Which helps correct a lot of other issues that the patient's having physically, mentally, emotionally, all of those things. What is it with the Pico CBD that these doctors are potentially seeing that the patients are experiencing?
Yeah. Well, again, talk about the endocannabinoid system, right? If they have some sort of imbalance happening in their body, the endocannabinoid system has the ability to identify pro-inflammatory cytokines, has the ability to downregulate pro-inflammatory cytokines. We have the CD2 receptors attached to our immune cells. So when we're having an inflammation process, neutrophils are kind of things are out of whack. It has the ability to balance things out. So the endocannabinoid system is involved in all phases of inflammation. But like Joe was saying, we have cannabinoid receptors attached to all of our immune cells. So basically, if people are seeing some sort of positive results like that, it's because this is getting in there and balancing out their endocannabinoid system to where it can identify things properly and then go through the right channels to resolve it.
And I have something to add to that. So when you have an inflamed area, super inflamed, right, you're going to have constricted blood flow. Our product is 10,000 times smaller than a red blood cell. And in some of those constricted blood flow areas, barely a red blood cell can get through it. This can just squeak by, get to the part that needs it, and systemically, get in there. So
Nice. How would this work with like athletes, right? Like people that put their bodies through a lot of strenuous exercise, or someone that runs marathons, right? Like Los and Noriega, they're going to be running the New York Marathon in the next couple months. Like, what would this do for someone who's going to do a 26-mile run?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking before or after?
yeah.
Both.
Well, the endocannabinoid systems, it's very involved in muscle tension, muscle tone, muscle constriction, muscle blood flow, all of that. So if somebody's training and, need to recover, quicker, whether or not they're training for this or they are doing this for recovery, it can help with, their body being inflamed. It can help with the muscle tension, tightness, constriction that they're having. Ultimately, it can put their body in a more relaxed state.
Also, there's cannabinoids have been proven to, modulate calcium levels, which acts as a brake on your neurons firing, right? So you will, you can possibly, in that aspect, be a little bit more enhanced.
So and Dad, you were talking about like after they train, like if they do it before like they go on a run, what can they potentially experience?
Good question. I'm not sure. But that's a really good question. I'm not sure, as far as like doing this beforehand. I would think that it could help with the mental clarity, as far as just keeping your mind more balanced. Because what's interesting about the endocannabinoid system, again, when it comes to stress and tension, is it has the ability to fine tune the HIPAA axis and control how much cortisol is being released. So this is something that could possibly keep somebody in more of a calm state, while they're in a high intense situation.
Right. Very interesting.
There's other things too, and I think going back to exercise, and Dan can kind of go over healthy diets and exercise, what to actually stimulate. You don't necessarily even need to have external cannabinoids. You can produce more endocannabinoids on your own as well through healthy diet and exercise and whatnot. So just the fact that you are running is something that's gonna do that naturally.
Nice.
Yeah.
What else are we missing about CBD? Like what else? Because I'm always learning from you guys, and every single time, like the other day, we were on a call, and Miles, you were telling me about one of the doctors who was treating like an external tumor, cancer tumor, and how it really helped the lady who was in stage 4 cancer, right? And these are the little things that are very interesting to kind of like hear about what other doctors are experiencing with their patients.
Yeah, I mean, this is clinic by clinic. We hear these stories and testimonials. And I mean, the list is like too long, right? Like, we just talked about muscles and the body and the systems and all that. I mean, the cannabinoids, they can really help, in the brain, right? And just how we feel and different levels of hormones. And so really anything where you're unbalanced, right? That's really what we're looking at is what do you, if you're unbalanced, this is, endocannabinoid system, its only job is to balance the body and keep you alive.
Wow.
Right. So yeah, what can we tie strings to that? We could make a murder scene in here and tie a string to everything,
Right.
So, and we know it sounds like snake oil. It totally does. But when you get into the science of it and you read the papers and you understand the intricacies of your body, it kind of starts to make sense. And it's silly. It's like really silly because you don't want to say too many things because then people are like, you're just a wackadoodle. You know what I mean?
I think there's like 30,000 research papers right now on cannabinoids, and most of them kind of end in the same vein,
Yeah.
which is if this was only more bioavailable, if this was only more
Systemic.
systemic. We see this, how and it's just knowing that's kind of what we're looking
You
at.
got
now.
the answer.
So really, it's
That
now
was-
just carrying that research on further. What does this particle size do? What does this do as a more systemic vehicle? So
Wow.
so that's really kind of where we're at, and that's really the message that we want to say. We don't want to give anybody false hopes, or anything like you're bringing up cancer or whatnot.
No, because we have to prove it.
But we have to prove it,
And we will prove it one day.
and that's what we will be, doing more research on and
Absolutely.
whatnot. So the clinics that we work with are, we have some cancer clinics that are working with the product. So
I think Joe should really quickly get into what we've set up with the clinic stuff, right?
as far as advanced MD,
let's
So
talk
real,
about
so
that.
yeah,
we've developed something that's really.
It's kind of the first plug and play system that is designed for case studies. So where a doctor can go in and through a company called Advanced MD, they've never set their software up this way, but they've been fascinated with kind of how we've retooled this. But essentially, you'll be able to go in, a patient can go in, their medical records can go into their profile. They'll get their surveys, all their blood testing, the protocol for exactly what the doctor needs to be looking at for that specific case study.
Oh, wow.
And everything will be fed through, let's say, a 4 to an 8 week process to where we can actually start getting real data back. And we could do this throughout the entire world.
Yeah, and
So
then
it's-
auto
it's-
translate,
yeah,
right,
so
to different
basically-
languages and back
So
and
we'll
forth.
have everything.
Yeah.
So essentially,
We're making a hub.
yeah, we
Nice.
have that moving forward with being able to, because as they pointed out, we hear feedback from all these different clinics
But you
on
can't
all these
use that
different
data.
things. But we can't. Yeah, we have pretty unusable. We have testimonials. We have things like that we could present. But the next step is really looking at the case studies. And first thing was getting the product right, getting the
Yep.
product to a point to where it could go through a 0.45 micron filter, then a 0.1 micron filter, and then to go through e-beam radiation, e-radiation, to make sure that the product, as it's bypassing all these systems that are there to protect you, we need to make sure that the product is sterilized correctly.
Which
And
we've
then
done.
now moving forward to, okay, now let's start looking at the data, making sure we did everything we need to do with the University of Illinois, and then I think we're at
Toxicity
about
and everything.
75,000
doses.
doses now have been
Wow.
out, throughout. And so really, yeah, now it's looking at working with the FDA, working on case studies, working at frequency and dosage and things like that for various things.
Yeah.
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 And
What is the when doctors reach out to you guys and say, I want to utilize this in my clinic, what's like their main expectation? What are they looking for?
well, I think Dan can get, heavy into this, but I think the biggest thing to talk about is that it's people are already educated on what the lipophilic version can do, right? I mean, CBD business has blown up. It's
Right.
billions and millions of dollars, right? But, they already know that it's there. It's just like curcumin, right?
Right.
And we know what it could do on that level, but now that you have systemic and hydrophilic, it's like the next level. So they're already well educated.
Yeah.
They've been wanting it, but I mean,
Well, no, we have, the nice thing is we do have a forum on the back end of our website that's just for medical professionals as well. So they can communicate amongst themselves, to where I'm not coming up and saying, this is what it's good for, this is what it's good for. You guys kind of speak amongst yourselves. So you guys understand, hey, how is this working? Or how is this dosage working? And that's really want that open communication
Yeah.
between the medical professionals. So I'm not telling you, it's really kind of coming from another medical professional, as you just experienced yourself and are able to kind of relay your own personal experience.
That's really like the world of functional medicine.
Really.
That's why,
and that's what all we want, because
Yeah.
we're not doctors, we're not medical professionals. We're Dan's in with them all day long and whatnot, and like I said, he learns by osmosis. But at this point, it's really allowing them to talk amongst themselves and giving us feedback on directions of where we need to be looking at case studies, where we need to be taking the system.
absolutely.
would you say they
Yeah.
know a lot more about CBD than like someone coming in blind, like usually?
No, sometimes no. Sometimes they don't know
sometimes
anything.
no.
They're like, what is this? But it's, like you were saying, as CBD in general, having nothing to do with Pico IV, we do have a stack of studies, right? Of, how CBD traditionally has helped with anxiety or tension or stress. Also, how we have cannabinoid receptors attached to all of our immune cells, right? How this could potentially help with immunomodulation, just as far as talking about what CBD has done previously. But then, you get into like the gastrointestinal issues, and there's many different studies that have been done. So we'll send that to them, as kind of like a baseline of where to check. But, if you're looking at how the endocannabinoid system manages inflammation in the body, right? Like, you just really talk about what the ECS does. That the ECS is very involved in balancing our immune system, right? Neuroprotection, all of these things. And, you kind of draw the conclusion of what this system does and understand that we're just enhancing this system. We're supporting it. We're just giving it what it needs.
Guys, so right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the line. Whoever wants to start can start. But I want you to just take a minute or two and tell all of the listeners and viewers what you want the world to know about Pico IV. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go. Pico IV is going to change medicine. We're going to change medicine about creating awareness around an endocannabinoid system. This is a system that we can target for very specific health conditions. Not because Pico IV is, because pharma has over 1,000 patents of synthetic cannabinoids to target the endocannabinoid system. They have them in phase 2, phase 3 studies. So it's coming. So what Pico IV, what we stand behind is, and what we are the return to ancient botanical wisdom. We believe that the future of medicine is what medicine used to be, right? Synthetics only became a thing over the last 100 years. And we wiped away 5,000 years of medicine. So by educating about the endocannabinoid system, that we have a system in our body that connects to everything, and that we can stimulate, we can support this system naturally. We coach people how to take care of their bodies, what to eat, back to whole foods, get away from the processed and the pesticides, and the exercise. All of these things stimulate the endocannabinoid system. So what Pico IV is we are the return to ancient botanical wisdom, and we are going to create awareness around a system in our body, and this is whole body wellness. We're not targeting symptoms anymore. We're targeting the whole body. that's where I see us going in the future.
I love that.
And I think taking it a step further, and he really touched on it. Any of the compounds that we're looking at, these are all natural plant-based medicines that we're looking at, and that's kind of our future as well. Is this as we're exploring the cannabinoid system and what Pico IV CBD product can do? It's actually looking at these others, and we're looking at what curcumin's been doing on an oral level.
With no
specifically
bioavailability.
With no bioavailability, even with cancer, CoQ10 and all the benefits there. So that's really kind of the other future that we need to be looking at is as we've now applied this technology to these other compounds, what is the particle size now of curcumin going to be able to do? And what's the combination between the various cannabinoids and maybe these other compounds? So it's a lot of research, and that's really what we're working into right now as we're going through evolving the company. We're actually in pre-seed and Series A and kind of going through funding and whatnot. That's where most of the funding's allocated towards. It's really just research and development and moving from, I call it the new pharma sometimes, where it's like we're moving away from that big pharma mentality back into natural plant-based medicines and really seeing what these can do. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miles?
I mean, I think everyone needs to know that, this product is well polished, and like Joe said before, we had to get the product right first, and we've achieved that. It goes through, FDA regulations say, particulate removal needs to be done in an ISO 7 room, down to 0.22 particulate removal filtration. And, we take it a step further because we knew we were going to be under the spotlight, and we're at, 0.22, then 0.1 in an ISO 5 room.
Which is a higher,
which costs, it
yeah.
costs us $35,000 a day. We take this very seriously because we know that you're putting something in your body that needs to be, a fail rate of, 1 in every, 10 quadrillion vials. You know what I mean? So, and then we even go a step further and go through E-beam irradiation, to where there's absolutely no way that it's, that it's going to fail, and be something great for people. But we are going through, we're looking for investment right now because this has been a self-funded project. We've gotten this far, but as everyone knows in the medical industry, it takes a lot of money to get this proven and get it done right and go through FDA approval. But I think everyone should know, we have made, and in the last 6 months, I've made 13 new products. I know that we can get through, and we're going to do all of the, toxicity, efficacy studies and whatnot. But that's going to take a lot of money to get all the research done, but it's going to open the health world up to something they've never seen before,
Absolutely.
So
Amazing. Guys, so right now we're going to have a little fun really quick. So one of my favorite podcasts is, it's called The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. And he came out with these conversation cards. So I'm going to give it to you, Miles. So you open it up, grab one from the middle, and then pass it down. And what we're all going to do, one at a time, is you're going to read the question on the card. You're going to answer it.
Oh, it's a QR code, so I got to scan it first. No,
that's for you to make the donation at the end.
So I can be able to read it.
Anyone can go first.
All right. How do you take care of you? Am I asking you that or me?
No, your own question.
How do I take care of me? Well, first Pico IV, monthly. No, no, just kidding. What I do is, I guess really, actually, within the last 2 years or so, I looked at myself and, I'm not that big of a person, but I realized I was skinny unhealthy is what I call it. It's what you put, you are what you eat, right? So I really started educating myself on, eating healthy and what my body needed and supplementation with vitamins and whatnot. And now I'm doing the Pico IV as well as, some Pico water-soluble pills, broad spectrum and stuff to supplement the endocannabinoid system. But also working out, I don't think everyone needs to be a bodybuilder, but I do think that you need to understand that your organs and your heart especially, you need to get that kind of exercise, or else you're not going to be around here for your family. You're not going to be around here for your kids. or maybe your grandkids one day, right? You got to start thinking about other people other than yourself. And I think that's how I take care of me, is they're my motivation, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. So
Amazing.
yeah.
This is a wild one. Yeah.
Oh, there's really small font on that.
It says, if you could say one thing to a family member you've lost, who would it be and what would you say and why? That's pretty deep.
Don't cry. You're making me cry.
I might, you know. It would probably be my grandfather. He was in World War. He was in a submarine that that exploded. However, he was in the front half of this submarine, and he was the only one who survived out of his crew somehow. So I would ask him to tell me that story and how that went and why, and what I would ask him, what did you take from that? What would you pass on to me? Because I never really got to know him. I never got to get any of his wisdom. So I would have kind of probed that story, and for him to explain what he got from that. So that's kind of the direction I would go.
What a powerful story, though.
Yeah, I've known Dan for at least 10 years. I never even knew that. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, that's fascinating. So I'm gonna have to hold it back here. I didn't know it'd be
he's
reading
blank.
anything. Yeah.
You want me to read it to you?
No, I think I got
Okay.
it. What topic is no one talking about now that historians will study in the future?
Oh.
Kind of funny. We just went over
Plug.
that. Obviously, we just
Plug.
plugged. Yeah, I don't need to sit here and plug Pico IV anymore. I think that I think there is this awareness right now that we're starting to see. Books like Lifespan that go into reverse aging and whatnot. I think this pivotal moment in time where make America healthy again and whatnot, and things that they're looking at and studying. And I think that this is a good time, in our history, to where we are starting to take health a lot more serious, and there are ways to maybe reverse age and things that like Miles had talked about. So yeah, hopefully this is the time that we see that change.
They're all, remember when people used to die?
Yeah,
That was a great
exactly,
time.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like that one
Yeah.
guy with the don't die.
Just don't die.
So guys, as we wrap up here, if there's anyone listening to the podcast or watching the podcast and they truly resonate with today's message, what is one thing that each of you can leave them with?
I think for the product level, if you're looking for something, if you're actually specifically looking for Pico IV, going to pico-iv.com, taking a look at, there's a provider map on there. I'm sure you're going to probably find one in your area, and being able to go and talk to the doctors there and actually get them their advice on if there's something that they feel maybe CBD might be able to help them out with, and go through that. I think that would be the biggest takeaway from this. Hopefully that there are people that they can go and talk to, medical professionals they can go and talk to specifically about our product.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dan?
One thing. Yeah. Well, medicine was plant-based medicine. It was natural for thousands of years. Imagine the trial and error that they went through to figure out what was safe and what wasn't. People probably died. People got sick. They did all the hard work, so we know what is safe to take today. So let's honor those people that came before us that did all of the hard work for us to figure out what natural sources are safe for us to take. And let's start looking into a new way of medicine, which is the old way of medicine. Let's just reverse time there.
I think help us educate yourself about the endocannabinoid system, but help us get the research completed in any way, shape, or form. I think that's what we need. We have the right administration in effect right now. I think help us get this over the finish line, because we can't do it alone. We can't. We need an army, and we got to build this following, and just educate yourself on it and make your own decision, but you'll see it.
Awesome. And where can people find you guys?
pico-iv.com.
pico-iv.com, and take a look at the map with plenty of liquid vitas that are going up right now and as we speak. So, which is pretty fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure having you guys on a Healthy Point of View podcast. Thank you.
Hey,
Fun.
thank you.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Guys, you heard it here. Listen, science is 25 years ahead of medical practice. It's because of technology and innovations like this where we could truly change the course of medicine. The things that are going to be coming up in the next few months to the next year with Pico IV, you need to watch it. There's a lot more behind the scenes than what we talked about on this podcast. I'm telling you because I'm on the advisory board of Pico. Dive deeper into this and understand there's going to be a lot of new solutions on taking care of your health, especially with people that are chronically ill. Guys, make sure you follow, subscribe, share this with all of your friends, family, co-workers, and we'll see you for the next one.